All right, little background about the Red Rose Roundtable, how it got created. And it's great that Pam's here today because Pam's a significant part of it. As I was kind of talking with Peter about estate planning and our services, we realized that there's gaps in any type of plan, any product that any person can offer cannot solve every single problem. So in order to try to fill gaps, it involves bringing in other partners, people that offer other services to kind of fill that void. For example, doing a trust to protect your assets from skilled nursing does not address the issue of how do you pay for assisted living and memory care. So that was a gap. I had some clients saying, you're saying I have to be healthy for 5 years, but what if I don't have 5 years healthy? And initially, when I first became an attorney, I said, great question. I don't know. So I went and talked to Peter about long-term care policies and policies that could potentially pay for that gap. But maybe once you've closed the gap, once you've exceeded the 5 years and you've locked in the protection of the trust, well, maybe now you don't need that policy for long-term care. You need it for a life insurance policy, or maybe you can discontinue it altogether and look for something new. One gap that we found was for people that don't have close friends or family members to serve as an executor, to serve as a power of attorney, to serve as a trustee for a special needs child. If I don't have a close family member that I trust for that, who do I go to? For people with more than $300,000, some trust companies would do it. Fantastic for those people that can invest $300,000 at that financial institution, but where do the rest of us regular people go? And if you Google search it, you'll find they'll say CPAs or attorneys can do it. I've gone to the CPAs and they say absolutely not. I'm an attorney and I say absolutely not. So I don't know where Google got that answer from, but we talked with Pam and she took on that role. So that's something that Pam will do for us, is serve as a POA, serve as an executor, serve as a trustee for someone that doesn't have anyone. And you can imagine someone that only has one child that's special needs, their options are pretty limited as to who would be their power of attorney and who would look after the finances for that individual. So that's something that Pam took on that we can offer now. So typical goals that I hear from clients when it comes to estate planning: I don't want to be a burden or leave a mess. I try to caution my clients against saying that they're going to be a burden in any respect. I think if you're leaving money behind, that's never a burden. However, you receive free money is never a bad thing. But certain estate plans do tend to be messy. If it creates a fight between siblings or there's just a bunch of properties scattered different places, the probate process can be a bit messy. I want to protect assets. That's typically from skilled nursing costs. That's usually what we address, but really anything can take your assets away, lawsuits, creditors. So we look at protection in a broader sense of protecting against all of those claims. I want to avoid probate. Again, that kind of ties into the being a mess. Some people are familiar with the probate process specifically, though, having gone through it. I think some of my best clients are people that just recently dealt with their parents passing away and a 14, 15-month period of headache and nonsense of being an executor of that estate. And they are anxious to make sure that they don't leave that kind of same situation for their kids. Minimize taxes. This is one of the things that I think I disappoint my clients with the most, because they come in hoping that I can avoid taxes entirely, or that we can just end around all the taxes. And in reality, I have to kind of pick and choose my taxes. I'm faced with a small tax over here and a large tax over here. I'm able to direct them towards the small tax, but there is no street that leads to tax-free life. I think ultimately people know that, but they're hoping that I have some sort of hidden secret on how to minimize taxes. Proper estate planning ensures that there won't be a mess. So then we're looking at, do I need a will or do I need a trust? Trusts avoid probate, so we can avoid messes when it comes to using trusts. But a lot of people think that because I'm a trust attorney that I'm going to offer a trust to every single client. And that's really not the case. If somebody doesn't have real estate, they live with their parents or they live with their children, we can avoid probate without using a trust. And I think a will be sufficient for someone that has minimal assets and no real estate. Power of attorney really makes sure that there's not a mess during your lifetime. So if I'm in a motorcycle accident or I suffer a massive stroke and I'm incapacitated, I could have the best will that any attorney has ever written. That does nothing for me while I'm still here on earth and incapacitated. If I'm in a coma, I need somebody that's going to step up and pay my bills. I could be a multi-millionaire and all my money is tied up in a bank account somewhere, and my cell phone bill is not getting paid, my mortgage isn't getting paid if I don't have a power of attorney in place. Healthcare directives, same thing. I'm incapacitated. I'm not dead. Who now makes the decisions for me, healthcare wise? For me, my default decision maker would be my parents. My children are juveniles and I'm not married. However, that kind of leads into another problem. If my mom is my default decision maker, does she know my wishes? And is she capable of carrying them out? My mom would never, ever pull the plug on me, even if she had 100 documents that says Jay did not want to remain in this state. Jay would want you to pull the plug. So I did my healthcare directives. I named my little brother. I say my little brother has been waiting 36 years to pull the plug. So I don't have to worry about that concern that he wouldn't be able to do it. You also need more than just physical documents. So what you'll get from a lot of attorneys, you walk into an attorney's office, name your family members, and they're going to spit out a bunch of documents for you. That's half the battle. You really need what is a coordinated estate plan. And the reason for this is because you might have beneficiary designations on accounts, you might have joint ownership on accounts, on property that override your estate plan. So an example I give is my older son is going to turn 18, obviously before my second son does. And when he does, I'll probably make him the beneficiary of my checking account, savings account, and I'll probably do that across the board. Well, if my estate plan says everything splits 50-50 between my two kids, but all of my accounts are beneficiary designated to my oldest, what does my youngest get when I pass? Not a penny, because all the beneficiary designations overrode that. You take it another step further with trusts. Trusts usually require retitling of assets. So if you haven't retitled assets into the trust, you might have a trust document that's very well written and assets that don't coordinate with it at all. I see a lot of people with a trust where their home is still in their name alone. That means that the home does not avoid probate and it's not actually tied into the trust. So you need to coordinate your entire life around your estate plan to make sure it's one cohesive plan. I say that you should inform your family. Very basically, you should inform them what attorney you've done the documents with and where the documents are located, but you probably should take it a step further, explain what's going to happen, who's going to have what roles, whether it requires two people to be involved or one person. They should know all the ins and outs of your estate plan, your power of attorney document, your healthcare documents. Nobody wants it sprung upon them. You're in the hospital and you're the power of attorney on what? And they don't know where your checking account is. They don't know where your savings account is. Now they've got to scramble to figure out where your money is. And kind of that's how you end up with those advertisements that say, you know, were you due an inheritance or was there money left out in the ether from someone passing away? It's because the executor didn't know what financial accounts the person had. So it got left hanging in the balance. Ultimately, it gets put somewhere waiting for a family member to come claim. Keep your plan up to date. A lot of firms are what we call set it and forget it. So you do the documents, you do the plan, and you leave it be, and you never change it. Whose lives are static and just stays the same for 20, 30 years on end with no changes? Nobody's lives are like that. The law isn't like that. So the law is constantly changing. You want your documents to match the current law, not the law that was of the day you created the documents. How do I know that this is a problem? Every single week, clients are bringing documents to me for review. They're pulling it out of a dusty old bank envelope. It smells like mothballs. Clearly, this is not an up-to-date estate plan. This is something that somebody put in place in the 90s and the 80s and forgot about it. They've had new grandchildren born. They've had children predecease them, siblings predecease them. The people that they've named in important roles have long since passed away. Not a good idea for your estate plan. So key tax returns. Every single person is allowed to give away or leave behind $13.61 million before they'll pay a penny in federal gift or estate tax. What that really means for me is that it's a non-issue. Very little of my clients have that problem. Usually they're married, so each of them gets one. They get $27.22 million between the two of them. Something that was a big concern in the 90s is really a non-issue. In addition to that amount, you're allowed to give away $18,000 per year. So if you had 14 million, you'd start giving away $18,000 a year to each of your loved ones to try to bring you down below that 13.61 million you're passing. And a lot of people get this confused. They think I was told that I could give away $18,000 a year. Two totally different sets of rules. The IRS says you can give away $18,000 a year. Does the IRS office work very well with the Medicaid office? No, they don't communicate at all. So the rule is different. That 18,000 you give away, IRS says is fine, Medicaid says that's a gift, that's a Medicaid penalty. We average about $15,000 a month is the divisor for creating the penalty. So $18,000 gift would be about a month and a week or a month and 2 weeks penalty where Medicaid would refuse to pay for your care if you gave that gift. So you can imagine the people that have 3 kids and they've been given $18,000 a year away to each of their 3 kids, total that up over 5 years, they've created a penalty with Medicaid where maybe Medicaid refused for a year, 2 years worth of care. The inheritance tax here in Pennsylvania, it's 0% spouse to spouse, 4.5% to our children and grandchildren, 12% side to side, that's our siblings specifically, and then 15% to anyone else. When I say anyone else, that's nieces and nephews, that's unmarried couples, that's friends and total strangers, all get lumped into that same 15% category. This is where I was talking about where we're trying to pick and choose our taxes. We got to pick our battles. So capital gains tax, on the other hand, ranges from 15 to 37%. But notice the lowest capital gains tax is equal to the highest inheritance tax. So clearly the capital gains taxes are worse. Where we see that most often is real estate. So I use the example of my family farm. My grandma is 91 years old, still lives on the family farm. Her basis, meaning what she paid for it, is somewhere around $15,000. If she were to try to avoid this inheritance tax, the only way she could do that is by gifting me the farm. You can say, here, Jay, this is now your farm. Fantastic. However, I'm probably going to sell it when grandma passes. And when I do, I'm going to pay this tax, capital gains, somewhere between 15 and 37%. I would say probably in the neighborhood of 24 to 25% for me. Remember, that was to avoid a 4.5% tax. However, if I pay this 4.5% tax, I get what's called a step up in tax basis, meaning that it's as if I purchased the property the date of my grandma's death. So if she dies and the property is worth 400,000, I sell it for 400,000. It's a wash, 0 capital gains because I paid the inheritance tax. So do the math. What's better to pay 4.5% on 400,000 or 24% on 385,000? Clearly, I should have paid the inheritance tax. This kind of leads into another conversation I have with my clients because, again, there's other consequences of gifting the property away. If grandma gifts me the property, whose property is it now? It's Jay's property. It's not grandma's property anymore. So it's subject to my good and bad life choices. It's subject to my divorces. It's subject to my creditors. If I end up going into a nursing home, it's subject to my nursing home. So grandma might find herself in a situation where she hasn't done anything positive for the tax side of things, but she's created negative consequences for herself. I can tell you personally, I would never evict my grandma from the family farm, but I can tell you of at least 10 instances where our clients have been evicted by their children because against our wishes, against our advice, they've gifted the property to a child, and that child turned around and sold it without anything and set mom and dad out on the street. Do I need a will or do I need a trust? First, we need to know that all trusts are going to probate. Wills must be probated. A lot of people come to me saying, I have a will. Why do I have to go through probate? Wills and probate go hand in hand. The legal process of proving a will is called probate. What they're referring to is intestate succession, dying without documents. Totally separate idea. Every will must be probated. Wills have a lot of deficiencies. The one that I like to point out is blended families. I'm a single dad with 2 juvenile kids. I hope to create a blended family one day. I don't want to have to pick and choose whether I support my wife or I support my kids. The reason for that is if I have a house and I have a will, do I say I leave the house to my wife and then she can sell it or she can devise it to someone else, totally separate from my family when she passes? Or I can leave it to my kids and my kids can kick my wife out because now they own the house. I don't want to pick and choose. I'd rather be able to do a combination of the two. My wife can continue to live there until she passes, and then the proceeds ultimately pass to my 2 kids. Can't do that with a will. You do that with a trust. Could you accidentally leave money to your ex or to your child's ex? With a will, the answer could be yes. A lot of times I'll poll the audience and say, who here loves their ex-wife, their ex-husband enough to leave them a large sum of money? Very few people. I've had a few actually say yes. they ruined the joke. But typically, people don't love their exes enough to do that. If I passed away and I didn't have anything in order, or if I had a cheap will, the money would go to my kids in an UTMA account. Uniform transfer is the minor's account. By default, the guardian of that account is the physical guardian of the kids. That means their biological mother. I had a client come to me, sad story, early 40s, not much older than I am, diagnosed with terminal cancer. The father of her children had never met the children. He was a drug addict living in Tennessee. She had a $75,000 life insurance policy, and when she walked in the door to me that day, that policy was designated to pay out to those kids. 75,000 reasons for deadbeat drug addict dad to come back into the picture. She was talking about, how do I get rid of this money? How do I make sure that it doesn't go to my kids? I'd rather light it on fire than have him come back into their lives. So we set up a trust with her best friend managing the money. The money will pay into there. And now that protects the kids literally from their dad by not providing a financial incentive for him to come back. Wills don't provide asset protection for the creator during life. So if I create a will, it does nothing for me until the day I pass. It is a useless document until the date that I'm dead. So if there's a creditor that comes after those assets, if I go into a nursing home, the will doesn't do anything. So there might not actually be anything to pass at the time that I die. A will, as much as I've just beat it up, can be sufficient. In the right circumstances and done properly, if you have no real estate and minimal assets, or maybe you don't have any descendants. I've had clients come in with lots of real estate and lots of money, but they don't have any close friends or family members. They don't care where the money goes or if there's any money at the time of their passing. For them, a will is sufficient because they don't even know who the burden's going to fall to when they die, because they don't have a clue who's going to step up or where it's going to go. Just a lack of motivation to really do a solid estate plan because they don't have those family roles. Since I've talked about trust being so beneficial, I want to explain what a trust is and how a trust works. A trust is a contract between three parties: the grantor, a trustee, and a beneficiary. The first is the grantor. That's typically my clients. That's the person who comes in to create a trust. They're called a grantor. It's their assets that are going to go into it. The trustee is the person who manages the trust. So they're like the air traffic controller for the money and the assets in the trust. They're going to say some of it goes here, some of it here goes here, and when. And then the beneficiary is the person sitting back and receiving those assets. So typically my client's children are the beneficiaries, but it could be a charity, it could be a church. It's whoever's receiving assets from the trust. They can be irrevocable or revocable. A revocable trust means that you can put the assets in, pull them right back out, and there's no restrictions on that. You can empty it entirely, meaning you can take all the assets out of it, and it's now basically an empty bucket, or we call it an empty wagon. That means that you've revoked that trust. You don't get asset protection because you're able to reach in and take all the assets back out. There's no asset protection. It's strictly probate avoidance. Irrevocable trust, on the other hand, you put the assets in and you agree never to give them back to yourself personally. So I put the assets in. You see these boxes are in the wagon. I put my home in there. It's in there. I can now say where it goes. I can give it to Peter. I can give it to my children. But I've agreed not to give it to myself personally. Because of that, I get asset protection. My creditors can't say borrow against that house or liquidate that house. I want to attach a lien against that house because I don't have the right to give it to me. They can't force me to attach it either. It gives me a lot of flexibility because I could transfer it to my children, but I can't give it to myself. With irrevocable trust, I mentioned real estate a lot. It's perfect for real estate. If I put $100 in there and agree never to give it back to myself, well, maybe I want that $100 one day, or I want to buy something nice with the money I put in there. I can't give it back to myself. You do lose a little something when you put money in there. I would only put money in that I could literally tuck away and never touch again. Real estate, on the other hand, I can still do all the things that makes real estate great. The best thing about real estate is exclusive use and access. I want to be the only person that has keys to this house. I want to be the only person that can sleep in it. I want to choose who comes and goes. You can still all do that with a house. I mean, a house in a trust. So when you put real estate in a trust, the trust owns it. You still get to live in it. You can still sell it and upsize or downsize. All the things that makes homeownership great without any of the downsides. The downsides of owning a house is that's where people put liens when you owe them money. That's where Medicaid puts a lien when you owe them money. So you're getting all the benefits without any of the downsides. Things to avoid when it comes to estate planning. These are a list of the things that I most commonly hear my clients have done before they met me. And I say, oops, shouldn't have done that, or they're talking about doing it, don't do it. Do not add your child as a joint account holder on your accounts. This is especially true for checking and savings accounts. If you do that, you expose that checking and savings account to their creditors, to their divorce, to their life. Perfect example of how this goes south. Mom and dad add child to account because mom and dad are having hard times getting around and they think it's convenient. Dad dies, they charge an inheritance tax because the theory is that daughter has inherited 1/3 of that account. When in reality, it should be dad's money. It's not child's money yet. If the child dies, mom and dad pay an inheritance tax on their own money flowing back to them. And then if they die, whoever it goes to from there, inheritance taxed again. So the government is taking a bite out of it every single time that it passes from one person to the next, when in reality, it hasn't gone anywhere. The whole thing was done for convenience. Another issue that Jeff ran into, and we actually argued this as high as you could possibly argue a Medicaid case and lost. Mom and child on a joint checking account. Child goes into the nursing home first. We argued that's not her money. She was added just for the convenience of mom. What did Medicaid say? The date she went in the nursing home, she had full access to that money. She could have walked with every penny and nobody could have stopped her. So it counted 100% as a resource for daughter. Okay, mom goes into the nursing home about 6 months later. Well, you would think since all that money was counted towards the daughter, it can't count towards mom. Medicaid said, you know what could mom go in and withdraw yesterday? 100%. So it 100% counted against mom as well. So $100,000 counts as a $100,000 asset for daughter and a $100,000 asset for mom. Sounds a lot like $200,000, but it's not. So it creates double the penalty for a single asset. Do not add your child to your deed. So adding your child to your deed, tax consequences. You've now gifted them 50% of the property, so they get a carryover tax basis on 50% rather than getting that step up in tax basis. Again, it becomes an asset for your child, so now it's subject to their creditors, it's subject to their debts. Do not gift your child your home. Again, carryover tax basis, all the consequences we talked about in the beginning. Do not delay getting your documents in place. If you get your documents in place when you're 25, what's the worst thing that can happen? You live a long, healthy life and you don't need them until you're older. Doesn't sound so bad, right? What happens if you come into my office and you've lost capacity? Let's say you die inadvertently in an accident or some sort of tragic happening, younger than expected, no documents in place. I have a lot of clients where their children are coming into me, they're in their 60s, mom and dad are in their 80s, capacity has long since gone and they're asking what I can do. The answer is pretty much nothing if the capacity is gone. So the point of that is that you can wait too long. You can't come in too early, but you can certainly wait too late. Do not pay for skilled nursing care or apply for Medicaid without talking to an attorney. It pains me every single time a client casually mentions or comes in and talks to me and they have paid $150,000, $300,000 for their mom or dad's nursing home care and just assumed that there was no way to prevent it. We can take pretty much anybody as long as they're not have a substantial pension or a really large income and get them qualified for Medicaid no matter how much money they have. Protect that as assets for the next generation. A lot of places when you go in, you're going to run into medication techs or front desk people, and the first thing they're going to do is say, welcome to Shady Acres, here's an application for Medicaid. If you apply for Medicaid, it's called a snapshot. All of your assets that day are basically taking a picture, and that's what you have to show as your available assets for Medicaid purposes. You've locked us out from being able to protect them. And sadly, that's not something that's known by the staff. They're trying to do them a favor by saying, here, I want to help you apply for Medicaid. Here's an example of how it could be disastrous. Let's say my grandma gave each of the grandchildren, there's like 13 of us, the $18,000 for Christmas one year. Huge penalty, $200,000 penalty. It was 4 years, 364 days ago. If she applies today, 100% of that penalty would count against her for Medicaid purposes. So they would refuse to pay for a year or more. If she waited 2 more days to apply for Medicaid, it falls outside the 5-year window, 0 penalty. So that 2 days of waiting to apply for Medicaid could make the difference of $200,000. It's a common issue is things that kind of generated the Red Rose existence and conversations between Peter and I. How do I stay in my home longer rather than going into a facility? What if I don't think I can stay healthy for 5 or more years? How do I pay for assisted care or memory care rather than skilled care? Or just in general, I'd like to learn more. Our partners here are going to talk about the answers to some of these questions that obviously I said that I can't address. And if you'd like to learn more, then we invite anybody to sign up for our 3 Secrets workshop, additional workshops with Diploma from. And with that, I'll turn it over to Peter.
Thank you. Your audio visual expertise. I got it right that time.
Are you going to plug directly in?
Yeah.
I'll take this.
It's actually, if you go this way, yep, there's a door right there, Jim. Go through it, and then it's immediately to your left. Yeah.
Page. Try the from beginning and see if it'll do it by default.
So I just want to take a moment to thank Attorney Paloma for the use of his office and Attorney Metzbower for creating the workshop that we're here today. It was his mastermind that we were talking about it. We put it together. Also, if you have not attended any of their workshops, I strongly recommend them. Just invaluable information. I attend them on a quarterly basis. They really help me understand some of the things that my clients will experience, and it just makes it easier for me to provide value to clients. So wonderful for those workshops. So my name is Peter Franzis. I own a company called Franzis Insurance Services Group. Just a little about me. My parents are Greek immigrants. I was born and raised in York County. I attended Valley University in Waltham, Massachusetts. I was in the Marine Corps Reserve for 8 years. Lived in Massachusetts until 2006. Then I moved back to look after my parents. And I belong to several local, national professional organizations, government organizations, and nonprofits. So I started my health insurance business back in 2013 to help my mom. Today I have over 1,100 clients, and I help folks with really any sort of health insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare need. These are just some of the services I provide. And then some of the actual services are here too. So there's no cost for my help. I get paid by the insurance company. So as I was walking in, a client recently received her summary of benefits and had some questions about what her coverage entailed. Clients can call me as often as they want. Absolutely no cost for my help. The insurance company pay me for that. So I help folks with everything from comparing plans, shopping for coverage, replacing ID cards if they lose it, really anything, coordination of care. Somebody needs a walker, someone needs handrails in the bathroom, all that sort of stuff they pay for. I'm currently contracted with 200 insurance companies. These are just some of the ones that are probably the most common. And then whenever someone's introduced to me, I have a very detailed process. I find out the medications, I find out the doctors, I find out what they're planning on doing plan for the year, because folks can change plans from year to year depending on the nature of the plan. I like to make sure folks aren't stuck in a plan, but they're the best plan available for themselves. So, disclaimer, understand that what we're going to talk about could change tomorrow. This information is accurate as of this morning. The federal government's really good at changing stuff and not telling anybody. Plus, a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about has been out there for a very, very long time. And a lot of it is a matter of interpretation. So when it comes to Medicaid, long-term care, things like that, folks have different opinions on that. So I'm going to do my best to make sure that we stick to the black and white of it. If you were researching it, right? What's research? Google. If you were Googling it, this is what you'd find. So I think the best place to start is just to define some terms. So these are some of the terms that are associated with long-term care. So what is long-term care? It's a wide range of assisted services provided to an individual based on their needs. So that could be anything from someone being in your home, helping you, or you being in a facility and needing that level of care. There's also something called short-term care, which a lot of people don't know about. Short-term care in the insurance world means up to a year. So when you hear about a short-term care policy, that means the policy will last up to 364 days. So less than a year. Activities of daily living. Those are typically the things that if someone's unable to perform will trigger a long-term care event and will therefore allow someone to start receiving the benefits from a long-term care insurance policy. They are eating, toileting, transferring, bathing, dressing, and continence. There are also instrumental activities of daily living. These are separate from the regular activities of daily living. So for instance, shopping, cooking, housekeeping, etc. These are typically the first things to notice. Usually by the time these are starting, the activities of daily living, the ADLs are not too far behind. And this is typically when someone starts seeking care in some capacity. What is Medicare? Medicare is a federal health insurance program for people 65 or older, and some folks under 65 that qualify. What's Medicaid? Two completely separate programs. Medicaid is a joint federal and state government program that helps people with low income and assets pay for some or all their healthcare bills. Attorney Metzbower was talking about it a little while ago. What's the Medicaid partnership? Most people have never heard of that. That actually started back, at least in Pennsylvania, in 2007. What is it? Well, as we're going to find out in a little bit, Medicaid is responsible for about 60% of all long-term care costs. That's throughout the country. So the states got together and said, you know what, we need to figure out a way to offset this. Why don't we make it, why don't we create an incentive for someone to get a long-term care policy, and the funds from that policy will not affect their Medicaid determination. So that's what the Medicaid partnership program is. If someone gets a policy from an insurance company that's approved to offer it, they're a part of the Medicaid partnership, then the money that they would get would not affect their Medicaid determination. And then something that comes up every once in a while are filial responsibility laws, or Franzis laws, which just basically mean children can be held responsible for the financial obligations of their parents, depending on, additional circumstances. With that one. A few more terms: chronic illness, critical illness, terminal illness. So I'm getting over a cold. So those three are important because a lot of times folks would try and go the least expensive route, which makes the most sense, to try and get something that will cover long-term care, which could be a life insurance policy, which allows someone to access part of the death benefit while they're alive. These are three things that are typically a part of life insurance policies and will allow someone to get that money while they're alive. And a chronic, critical, or terminal illness. A rider, as the name implies, is just an add-on to a life insurance policy. Accelerated death benefit is what these are. This is just the name of that category. And then every once in a while, folks will ask about the Pension Protection Act. So this one's kind of important because it does provide tax advantages to purchase long-term care policies using a non-qualified annuity. So there are folks sometimes that will use that strategy in order to purchase a long-term care policy. Let's look at some statistics. So the population segment growing at the fastest rate is comprised of individuals age 85 or older. Pretty remarkable when you think about it. Folks are living that much longer. Someone turning 65 today has a 70% chance of needing some type of long-term care service. On average, women need long-term care for 3.7 years and men for 2.2. Why? Well, women statistically live longer than men. And also keep in mind when you're reading that, there's a few things you have to understand that are assumed. And I hate that word, but it's the only way to accurately describe it. So when someone is going into long-term care, that's typically because they've demonstrated two of those ADLs, which means they're having difficulty bathing, transferring, eating, that sort of stuff. So most women will only live 3.7 years after that. Most men will only live 2.2 years after that. So if you're looking typically at some type of a long-term care policy, that's the reason why those policies for women are usually written up to 4 years, for men typically up to 3 years. 20% of today's 65-year-olds will need long-term care for longer than 5 years. We're going to go over costs in just a little bit, and you'll see why in some cases, some types of long-term care just don't make sense if you're going to be in that case, if you're going to be in that category. 8% of people between the ages of 40 and 50 have a disability that should require long-term care services. 69% of people age 90 or over have a disability. 80% of care at home is provided by unpaid caregivers, typically spouses, children, things like that. A lot of the numbers you're going to see were based on 2015 and 2016 studies. Why? Guess what happened in 2020, right? No one was going into senior centers or long-term care facilities and things like that. So a lot of the data kind of stopped. So, we just have to understand that some of the numbers might be a bit higher since then. But in 2015, 43.5 million people in the US have been an unpaid caregiver in the last 12 months. 2/3 were women, spouse. 14% of them were 65 or over. And this kind of ties into this. Over half of them started having chronic conditions themselves. Why? Because typically of caring for the person that, their spouse. So let's talk about the levels of care, because this is really the foundation of long-term care. There's really two, but the third one, intermediate, does exist. It's usually lumped into the first one, but it's still there, and sometimes I see it from time to time. So skilled care. Skilled care is designed for individuals requiring a high level of monitoring, and it's really based on a concept of rehabilitative. So skilled care is designed to get someone back to their house. That is not long-term care, that's skilled care. So if someone is going to a facility for X number of days for rehabilitative purposes, that's skilled care. Intermediate care is similar to skilled care. Someone just doesn't need that level of care, that much attention. But again, the goal is to be rehabilitative, so they go back home or back to wherever they're going to live. Custodial care is the trigger for long-term care. Custodial care means they're not leaving or they're going to another facility. Custodial care means that they are unable to perform 2 of the 6 functions of ADL. So these are typically folks that have Alzheimer's, dementia, or have clients that have like MS or Parkinson's and things like that. So they're not able to function. It's not rehabilitative in nature. So when you're thinking long-term care, you want to think custodial care. Where to receive care. These are 4 basic categories, and you can kind of mix them a little bit, but nursing home. This is a facility that provides long-term care services 24 hours a day, performed by or under the supervision of a nurse, physician, etc. So nursing home is considered to be the highest level of care. Alternate care facility. So these are typically like assisted living facilities, Alzheimer's, custodial care facilities. One level down from nursing home, community-based professional care. So a lot of this stuff can be done in the house, so someone can come into the house, like a speech therapist, occupational therapist, things like that. Or sometimes there's community centers and people go to that. And then in-home care, as it applies, it's in the house. So nursing home, when you think of long-term care, custodial care, it's typically going to happen in a nursing home. All right, let's look at average cost per care. And this is as of this month. I just ran this a few days ago. And all this information you can get on longtermcare.gov. All you do is plug in the zip code and off it goes. It'll actually route you to the Genworth website, but longtermcare.gov is one thing. Or you can just go to genworth.com. So, 3 different levels of care: home health care, community assisted living, and then nursing home facility, which is your highest level of care, your most expensive. So when it comes to home health care, really 2 separate categories. You have home health aid, and then you have homemaker services. Home health aid, much higher level of certification, training, etc. It's going to cost more. So hourly, $31, or hourly, $21. Daily, $192 versus $132, and then monthly and annual. So if you need care in the house, depending on the level of skill the person's got to have, certifications, that could be close to $70,000 a year. That's a lot of money for most people. That's probably more than their pension could be, more than their Social Security. And that's in-home that's for folks that don't need a higher level of care. Community and assisted living care costs, there really aren't daily, monthly or annual rates for that. Because again, those are typically either someone's coming in the house to do it, or you're going to a community, facility for it. So, if someone's going to an assisted living facility, that's $202 a day, $6,100 a month, or again, a little over $70,000 per year. And nursing home, again, is typically what most people think of when they're thinking about long-term care. So a semi-private room is $430 for, semi-private, private would be $495. Then as you work your way down, monthly is probably the easiest number for most people to digest, even though it's very high. And keep in mind, it can be even higher than the 13,000 or the 15,000, depending on additional things like amenities, private room, all sorts of stuff. So since private room here, but sometimes they'll charge for that sort of stuff. So the reason I have this up here is it's a good idea to understand what the costs are, depending on the level of care, because we're going to get to something next. All right, so how do you pay for this stuff? There's a lot of different ways to pay for this stuff. So personal funds. I talk to a lot of folks that'll call me up like, hey, do I need a long-term care policy? I'm like, I don't know. Tell me a little bit about you, right? They have enough coming in monthly from Social Security, in addition to cash and savings and all that kind of stuff, they can self-fund or self-pay. So they don't need to buy an insurance policy. Now, sometimes folks will still have enough because they also have, they have a spouse. Guess what they don't want to do? They don't want to deplete the funds, so the spouse has nothing. So sometimes folks in this personal funds category might still do something in the private financing category, just leave that money behind, or make it last a little bit longer. Because unfortunately, you don't know how long you might be gone, how long you might be the assisted living facility or nursing home. Nonprofit facilities, you don't hear much about, but they're still out there. One reason why folks will like them, if some you like them, is because if someone does run out of money, then they'll typically allow them to stay, which is called uncompensated care. Otherwise, they will move you along, right? They're not getting paid, then gonna get you going. Private financing. So a lot of different categories in here. So private financing is typically where you find like the long-term care insurance or also short-term care insurance. And I'll give you an example in a minute. The short-term care insurance is specifically designed for somebody that wants to stay in the house and will probably stay in the house for the first, again, year. You can still use it for a facility, but it's really just designed for the first year. And those are very cost effective. Most folks would typically get one of those policies versus a long-term care policy. Because a long-term care policy is designed to pay a benefit for a lot longer and they're usually a little bit more expensive. Membership-based long-term care programs. We're actually going to be hearing from Tonya and Andrew from SmartLife via Willow Valley about a membership-based long-term care program. So glad they're here because I always talk about it. And people are like, how do I find one? I'm like, let me tell you who to call. So home equity. Sometimes folks will do like a refinance or they'll do a reverse mortgage in order to take money out of the house. Life insurance policy, annuities, sometimes these can be an alternative. They can be less expensive than a traditional long-term care policy with an additional benefit. And I never recommend these, but it is still something that I get questions about, either biatical or life settlements. So these are if you have a life insurance policy and you sell the policy. Biatical is I'm dying and I'm selling. Life settlement is I'm not dying, but I'm selling. They're basically the same thing. It's just biatical is done faster. So what does that mean? You go through an approval process. They determine how long you're going to live because they want to figure out how long it's going to take for them to get paid. They give you X number of dollars, and somebody you don't know is waiting for you to die to get that death. And they can sell that policy as many times as they want. Pretty crazy, right? So it's the opposite of a regular life insurance policy. And then, of course, there are private Medicare insurance plans. So there are Medicare Advantage plans, Medicare Supplement plans. Like we talked about before, there's 3 levels of care. Skilled and intermediate are basically one category, and custodial is long-term care. Neither Medicare Advantage plans nor Medicare supplement plans will cover custodial care. That's not what they're there for. Medicare is designed for medical needs. Medicaid is a completely separate subject when we talk about in a minute. But I have a lot of folks that'll have a Medicare Advantage plan or a Medicare supplement plan, because I offer those. And they're like, hey, I'm doing long-term care. What's it gonna look like? That's not what it's designed for. All right, these are some cost examples. I get this question all the time. It's like, hey, if I was gonna get a long-term care insurance policy, what would it look like? So if I was gonna run a quote, this is the information I'd want. Long-term care insurance along the left, short-term care in the middle, life insurance on the right. So I used the most expensive, highest case scenario when I ran. So long-term care, it's gonna cost the most for a woman. Why? She's gonna live the longest, so they're gonna pay out the most. So for a 55-year-old female, and that's typically when people are reaching out in their 50s, because by then is when they start realizing, hey, I need something in place for this. So 55, gender female, standard height, standard weight, which is average, no tobacco, standard risk class. So the insurance companies that I use, all of them are part of the Medicaid partnership. So if someone is working with attorney Metzbower or Q or Colombo from the Colombo team, I want to make sure that if they do get a long-term care policy, it doesn't affect the Medicaid termination. And then I use a 90-day elimination period as an example, which means they would wait 90 days before they start receiving benefits. So they can use it in an assisted living facility, home healthcare. There's no limitations. Inflation protection, which is something that a lot of folks do not add to their policies, but I do offer to clients. Return of premium. There's this misnomer when it comes to long-term care insurance that you use it or lose it. Not correct. 70s and 80s and 90s, yeah, but all the policies that have been written since early 2000s give you the option to return to get a return premium, which means the beneficiary, the policyholder passes, the beneficiary gets the death benefit. So they no one loses money. Monthly, be $347.99. Annually, $4,175. This would be for $6,000 a month for 36 months. So this could be something that would offset some of the other costs, because if you remember, even at $6,000 a month, that wouldn't be enough to cover certain things depending on the level of care. So someone might use this in addition to private funds to not deplete private funds completely, or depending on the policy themselves, someone could set this up. So the spouse is on the policy as well. There's a pool of money that's shared. So if one passes before the other, then the remaining spouse would get to use the whole amount. So it can be an effective tool, but it just depends on the person. Short-term care, this would be a policy for up to a year. Again, 55, female, under the standard. Elimination period. These are designed to take effect day one. Monthly premium, $100.60. Annual premium, $1303.20. What are some of the benefits? They can use this in a facility, or they can use this at home. So this is a pretty effective tool. $1,200 a week is pretty nice. And again, up to a year is what they get. The nice thing about these are you can use these for anything, which is great. So they're not asking you for receipts, things like that. They're just depositing $1,200 checking account every month. And then life insurance is typically the most expensive option. If you'll notice, monthly is $905 versus monthly versus monthly. The difference is, for a policy like this, they're getting $350,000. Whereas with this one, it wouldn't be too far off, but again, you're getting a lot more with the life insurance policy, and there's just a lot more features. So life insurance policy might solve that need, or it could be one of these others, or maybe the person just doesn't need it all. So sure. All right, those are the private pay options. Let's talk about the state payment options. So let's talk about Medicaid. So there's 4 levels of Medicaid. The first one is called institutional or nursing home Medicaid. Exceptionally difficult to qualify for. Other than the folks that work with the Willow team, I've never seen anybody yet. It's remarkable how they're able to qualify. You don't know what your secret is, but sell it for $1 million per person. It's worth it. Institutional Medicaid, in addition to full veterans benefits, are the only 2 that will cover full long-term care expenses. There are some restrictions. So like, for instance, items not covered include like a private room. It says specialized food, there are dietary restrictions that it will cover, and then there's other, restrictions here and there. But for the most part, it will cover a lot of stuff. So institutional Medicaid is the highest level. Home and community-based services, which is also referred to as the waivers program. So this will cover skilled, it'll cover all three custodial, but the tricky part about this is it's not gonna cover room and board, mortgage payments, things like that. So this is typically for someone, I just spoke to someone today who's approved for this program. They have Alzheimer's, they're living at home with their husband. They'll have this, but as I was explaining to them, there are certain expenses that this program will not cover because they don't know who else is in the house. They don't know what they're using the house for, things like that. So there are some restrictions. This is the next level down. Age, blind, and disabled Medicaid. This is the most common for folks that are typically older, 65 or even in their 50s, etc. This is an entitlement program. Anyone who meets the requirement is automatically approved. And then just regular Medicaid is typically folks that are not older. Some folks can actually have it at birth, depending on. So if you're thinking of Medicaid or Medicaid systems, keep in mind that there's 4 different levels. The long-term care one is the first. This is something that a lot of folks ask about as well. So state-funded long-term care program. As I mentioned before, the Medicaid partnership program, states have been trying to figure out ways to offset those costs and to try to keep Medicaid from paying for so much of the expense. So 12 states, Pennsylvania is one of them, have been considering a Medicaid payroll tax for some time. It will probably get passed. I don't know if it will or not, but it probably will. Washington State was the first one to pass it, and go figure, everybody's copying Washington State. So what do? It's an uncapped payroll tax for W-2 employees. It's 58 cents per $100 of earning. Employers are responsible for collecting it, of course they are, and then remitting it to Washington. It's called the Washington Cares. So in Pennsylvania, they have introduced 2 separate bills. Both times they got stalled during different parts of legislation. So again, I don't know if it will pass. I think it will. So we'll see. But right now, Washington is the only one that has it. And then this is an interesting topic too, home modification loans. So this is not something that will offset costs specifically for Medicaid, but it is something that will allow someone to stay in the home. So for instance, the PA Housing Finance Agency will grant mortgage loans to help people with disabilities stay in their house longer. So, and that's actually something that Jamie's employer is working on, doing a home modification loan company that will assist with that. So now I have someone that I prefer that book. Great. Let's talk about federal payment options. So let's talk about Medicare and PA healthcare. So Medicare, like I mentioned before, Medicare will only cover skilled and intermediate care, not cover custodial care. So if you're going into a facility for custodial care, Medicare won't pay anything. Medicare will only pay for the first 100 days, and that's again only if each determination you're found to be getting better, for lack of a better term, still has to be under rehabilitative services. The moment that they diagnose you as not getting better, that's when they'll stop stuff. All right, VA healthcare. Again, just like with Medicaid, there's different levels. The highest level will cover custodial care. They'll actually cover all 3. Again, there are some limitations, but the VA healthcare program, again, very similar to the Medicaid program with different services. The nice thing about the VA healthcare program is it is a lot larger than the Medicaid program, obviously because there are facilities for VA, and if there isn't enough room in a facility, depending on the circumstances, VA will also pay for the person to be somewhere else, which is just a few resources that a lot of folks like having. So there's the Lancaster County Office on Aging, which is a great resource. There's the United States Department of Veterans Affairs, Lancaster County Veterans Affairs. Some people like that another number. Some folks like having the local number. Elder Care Locator, longtermcare.gov, Medicare, Medicaid, and then these are some of the state-based ones. PAHousingSearch.com, I give out a lot for people to find rent-controlled housing. it's remarkable how much some people are paying without knowing that they pay 30 or 40% of their monthly income. So, awesome. So thank you so much for your time. That wraps up my portion. I have the opportunity to now introduce the folks from SmartLife via Willow Valley. So it's going to be Tonya. Gotcha. Tonya's coming on. All right, great.
So hello, everybody. My name is Tonya DiPilla, and I am the membership advisor with SmartLife via Willow Valley. So I'm excited to be able to share the SmartLife program with you today. I am going to start off by talking a little bit about Willow Valley communities and the concept behind the SmartLife program. I'm then going to talk about what long-term care options we have available to us today. And then the back half of the presentation, I'm really going to focus on the benefits of the SmartLife program and what it means to be a SmartLife member. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start by sharing a little bit about Willow Valley communities. And why would I be doing that? That's because SmartLife is under the umbrella of senior living options that Willow Valley has to offer. These options certainly speak to our mission of helping individuals embrace the possibility of a life lived forward, to encourage people to engage in a vital, active lifestyle regardless of their age. So probably assume that everybody here is a little bit familiar with Willow Valley, but if you're not that familiar with Willow Valley communities, Willow Valley is a not-for-profit senior living community that's been caring for individuals for 40 years now. Willow Valley is a financially sound organization and consistently earns a Category A Fitch rating. Willow Valley offers all levels of care. So you can start off in independent living, move to personal care, skilled nursing care. But most importantly, Willow Valley is the only 100% life care community in Lancaster County. So I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with what life care means or what a type A life care contract is, but life care means exactly that. It means that you are guaranteed care for life. Life care also means that no matter what level of care you need, so you start off in independent living, need to move to personal care or skilled nursing, you will not experience an increase in your monthly fees simply due to the level of care that you need. So as I get into the later half of this presentation, then I talk about the asset protection that is provided by SmartLife. That's where this type A life care contract really comes into play. So SmartLife, why I'm here today to talk about SmartLife. So SmartLife is a program, again, under the umbrella of senior living options that Willow Valley Communities has to offer. Our program was launched in June of 2014, so we are thrilled to celebrate 10 years of the SmartLife program this year. And SmartLife really offers you a unique approach to independent aging with a focus on prevention and wellness. So it provides you the coverage of life care. However, the program is designed to bring you support and resources to your own home. So this is different from moving into a community like Willow Valley Communities. This is for individuals who are choosing to remain in their own home. So when we were designing the SmartLife program, we did ask for community feedback from individuals who were thinking about their long-term care needs. And that feedback helped us design a plan for individuals who were, again, choosing to remain in their own home, even as their healthcare needs may change. For those who are wanting protection of their assets from the rising costs of care. For those who are seeking an advocate to assist them with coordinating and providing oversight to their care. And those who were interested in social and community connections through utilization of select amenities at Willow Valley Communities or by attending SmartLife member-only events. So if this is the first time you're hearing about a program like SmartLife, this is probably a pretty important slide for you. Who provides the oversight? So SmartLife is licensed by the Pennsylvania Department of Insurance, which is the same state department that regulates all senior living communities. And this regulatory department really protects consumers and ensures that the promises we are making are the promises that we are keeping. Additionally, we are audited by a third-party auditor annually, and the results of that audit are then communicated to our members through an annual disclosure statement. SmartLife also works with a separate actuarial firm who assists with all of our forecasting and pricing. So the numbers that I'll be sharing later on in the presentation, these are not Willow Valley made up numbers. These are coming directly from the actuarial firm that we do work with. And finally, we do hold quarterly meetings. So this is 4 times a year where our members can come out to hear updates as to what might be going on with the SmartLife program, with Willow Valley communities. Our chief financial officer will also speak at these meetings and give updates on revenue and expenditures. So there's just a lot of transparency that you receive as a member of the SmartLife program. And while this may be the first time that you're hearing about a program like SmartLife today, Life Plan at Home programs are not a new concept. So the first program actually started over 30 years ago out in Philadelphia, and there are currently 6 at-home programs in the state of Pennsylvania. And SmartLife is about one of about 40 of these types of programs across the country. And all of these programs, again, are designed to help you remain in your own home, even as your healthcare needs may change. So this bottom bullet point is pretty important. Of those roughly 40 programs across the country, so these are all different programs, they're serving different areas of the country. A lot of them are connected to a CCRC, just like we're connected to Willow Valley. Of those 40 programs, less than 3% of members have care needs that require them to receive long-term care outside of their home. So it's a very small number of people. So that means that less than 3% of members of these programs ever need that highest level of care, that skilled nursing level of care long-term. So they may need to go into skilled nursing short-term to recover or recuperate from an illness or a surgery. But the goal of these programs is always to get our members back in their own homes. And these programs have proven very effective at that. So when we're thinking about our long-term care needs, what are some of the options that we have available to us today? Let's take a look. Well, our first option could be to stay at home and not have a plan. It's kind of a plan, but not really. You know, we can all take that approach of racing the clock, just hoping that nothing will happen to us as we age. However, statistics are just not on our side if you're considering this as a planning option. Statistics do show us that after the age of 65, nearly 70% of Americans will need some sort of long-term care. And when given a choice, nearly 90% of individuals want to stay in their own homes as long as possible to receive that care. And 80% of individuals believe that their current home is where they plan to remain. Another option in our planning could be to rely on family and friends to care for us. And again, current data does show us that 78% of people in the US who are receiving care at home are receiving that care from unpaid family members and friends. And the job of a caregiver can be hard work, even if you are caring for a loved one. And presumably for life in the sandwich generation, things can be a bit stressful. So nearly half of adults in their 40s and 50s have a parent who is age 65 or older, and they are either raising young children or they are still financially supporting a grown child. So having to care for an aging parent really can present additional challenges, making it difficult for those individuals to balance their work and personal life. But that is where the emotional value of this program really comes into play. Being a member of SmartLife allows your spouse to remain your spouse, your child to remain your child, rather than having to assume a caretaking role. Another option in your planning could be paying for services as needed. The benefit of doing this is that there is no upfront cost, but the risk, however, is that the cost of healthcare continues to rise, so there is no cap or asset protection for this planning option. And assets achieved over your lifetime really do have to last longer than ever, covering not only your daily expenses, but for 70% of individuals, you will need to cover some sort of long-term care. So just some statistics for you that I know Peter also shared as well. On average, caregivers are spending nearly 23.7 hours per week providing care. 42% are assisting individuals with ADLs, those activities of daily living, things like bathing, dressing, mobility. 93% are assisting individuals with IADLs. So these are things like meal preparation, like housekeeping, errand running, transportation. The average duration of long-term care that an individual is receiving is about 3.7 years for women and 2.2 years for men. 20% of individuals will likely need more than 5 years of care. And if you're considering the option of paying for services out of pocket, something that's important to remember is that when you need care, you just don't always have control over where that care will be provided. So if you are a member of SmartLife and you need to move into a higher level of care, so personal care, skilled nursing, our SmartLife team will use our expertise and experience to assist the member in deciding what community will best fit their needs, advocating for the member on their behalf to get them admitted to the community of their choice. And if you are a SmartLife member and you choose Willow Valley for your care, you do have preferred provider status to receive that care at Willow Valley. So essentially what that means is that you are treated as though you're a resident of the community, just living on the outside. So when you do need care, our life care coordinators will work on your behalf to secure you a bed at Willow Valley Communities. But having said that, doesn't mean that you have to go to Willow Valley to receive that care. We are willing to work with any other CCRC that's willing to work with us. And again, the life care coordinators will work on your behalf to get you admitted to the community of your choice. And we've had several members in the program that have chosen to go to other communities just based off of location, proximity to their home, makes it easier for a spouse or family member to visit. And we've been very successful at securing beds for our members at the community of their choice. Another option in your planning could be Medicare and Medicaid. So neither Medicare nor Medicare supplements cover long-term care. Medicare is really designed for your short-term acute medical needs. Medicare will pay for some skilled medical rehabilitation for a limited period of time after you have a qualifying hospital stay. Currently, the average length that Medicare is approving at a skilled nursing facility is about 16 to 22 days. Definitely see it trending on the lower end of that, especially for routine surgeries like knee replacements, hip replacements. We've even seen it with open heart surgery, where individuals are going in, receiving that surgery, and then they are being discharged straight home. Medicare can cover some skilled home health services, such as wound care or physical therapy, but the coverage is for acute short-term care needs only. Medicare does not pay for non-skilled help. So if you need a caregiver to come into your home to assist you with activities of daily living, again, bathing, dressing, mobility, meal preparation, areas where people tend to need the most assistance when they are returning home, Medicare does not cover that cost. So our members have the wonderful benefit of going into the hospital, receiving the surgery that they need, and then when they are discharged straight home, they can use their Medicare benefit for that physical therapy and wound care. They can pair that with their benefit through SmartLife to receive that assistance with those activities of daily living. And it really just makes for a nice match for our members to be able to go home and recuperate and recover in the comfort of their own home. Medicaid, every state does have different Medicaid rules, but in general, an individual must have $2,000 or less in assets and already require a facility level of care to qualify. So it's just not a planning option for everybody. Another option in your planning could be long-term care insurance. And long-term care insurance policies are certainly still an option. There are some robust policies floating around out there, and there are some that are just providing minimal coverage. The long-term care insurance industry has seen a lot of changes over the years just due to fluctuations in interest rates, changes in healthcare, increased life expectancy, the rising costs of care. So we always give we always say, if you have a long-term care insurance policy, definitely take a look at it, know what you have available to you before you need to use it. And another option could be moving to a senior living community. So several years into educating people about the SmartLife program, we have learned that there are really two types of consumers. There are those that are looking for that community style of living. Then there are those that really want to remain in their own home. So for those that are looking for that community style of living, you're very fortunate living here in Lancaster County because there are 18 different CCRCs here in Lancaster County to choose from. And that is certainly not the norm once you get out of Lancaster County. But for those of you who are not interested in moving to a senior living community, it does mean just that. It means you have to pack up, you have to leave your lifestyle. So for those who don't want to leave their homes, there is another option. SmartLife via Willow Valley is an option that allows that lifetime coverage of Willow Valley without having to leave your own home. And we are out and about daily meeting with individuals about the SmartLife program. And from those meetings, we often hear feedback about why people are waiting to plan. And these are the top three things that we hear. Number one, it's too costly. Number two, I'm just not ready yet. I have time to plan. Or the infamous, it won't happen to me. And while those thought processes could be accurate, I think we can all agree that having a plan in place for your future care really can give you and your loved ones peace of mind. Now, waiting can limit your plan options and choices. Admission criteria into this program does require that an individual be healthy and independent. So what do we mean by healthy and independent? That just means that we want to know that you're still independent with your activities of daily living and that you're living comfortably in your own home. If you do choose to wait and have a medically life-changing event, you may not qualify for the program. And Life Plan at Home programs are one of the most cost-effective programs in the industry, with entrance fees nearly 60% less than that of a community entrance fee. And because entrance fees are actuarially based, joining sooner rather than later really can come at a cost savings. So just to highlight some of the benefits that I am about to go over in more detail, SmartLife is a plan that offers personalized attention, support and resources provided to you in your own home, a professional to assist you with healthcare navigation, built-in asset protection, and opportunities for social and community connections. So now to transition a little bit into the benefits of the program, one of the biggest advantages of the SmartLife program is the Life Care Coordinator. The Life Care Coordinator is truly the heart and soul of this program, and they will be invaluable to you. Our care coordination team is comprised of credentialed social workers who have a vast array of experience and knowledge, not only the senior living industry, but arranging for long-term care. The role of the Life Care Coordinator is to be your advocate. They will be the person you call when you need assistance. They will get to know you, they will form a relationship with you, and our members really know them as somebody that they can trust, who will help them navigate through the long-term care maze. They will work with you to keep you well and independent in your home. But when the time comes that you may need some assistance, all you have to do is make a simple phone call to your Life Care Coordinator, and they will start services for you. It is really that easy. There's no forms to fill out, no claims to process. All you have to do is make a phone call, and our Life Care Coordinators are available to our members 24/7. Another advantage of the SmartLife program is home-based services. You know, no one is ever prepared for when they have a medically life-changing event or when their spouse has a medically life-changing event. And we know that it can be overwhelming. Who do you call? Where do you go for help? If you're a SmartLife member, you would turn to your Life Care Coordinator and they would put the needed services into place for you. So like I mentioned earlier, the goal of the SmartLife program is to keep you well and independent in your home. But when a need arises, SmartLife can bring services into your home. So some of the services that we offer based on a medical need are home care aides who can provide assistance, again, with those activities of daily living, so things like bathing, dressing, mobility. When you need help with just one or more ADLs, we can bring a home care aide in to assist you with those tasks. These aides can also provide assistance with what is commonly known as homemaker or companion services. So this is help with more of those daily chores like meal preparation, like housekeeping, errand running, laundry. And these services in your home can either be temporary or permanent, just based on your needs. Another advantage of the program is community-based services. So these services take place outside of your home, such as in skilled nursing or personal care. So if the goal of the program is to keep you independent in your home, why would I even be talking about this? Well, the truth is, nobody knows what tomorrow may bring. So should your healthcare needs change, some of the other services that we offer are based at Willow Valley Communities or another provider in your local area. And they are, if you ever need them, personal care, or some of you might know this as assisted living. So this is where you receive ongoing help with those activities of daily living. There is skilled nursing care, which can be short-term as you recover from an illness or surgery, or it can be long-term, round-the-clock nursing care. And if you need adult day services, we can take care of that as well. So as I mentioned earlier, if you need personal care, skilled care, memory care, you do have that preferred provider status to receive that care at Willow Valley Communities. But again, that doesn't mean you have to go to Willow Valley. If you have a preference for another community, your Life Care Coordinator will work on your behalf to have you admitted to the community of your choice. So what we're saying is with SmartLife, you really have the best of both worlds. You can remain independent in your own home while having the comfort of knowing that should your healthcare needs change, SmartLife and Willow Valley will be there to support you. And just for some other membership advantages, as a SmartLife member, you do have access to a lot of the activities and amenities at Willow Valley Communities. So you can participate in things like the lunch and learn events, theater events, wellness programs. You can even participate in the trips that they plan. You can join pickleball, bowling, tennis leagues. You can make use of dining facilities there. So there really are just a lot of opportunities to get involved in at Willow Valley Communities. And in addition, we do hold events throughout the year that are just for SmartLife members only. So our members can come out and socialize with other members of the program. And just to continue on some other services that we provide, Once somebody becomes a member, they do receive a visit from our licensed occupational therapist who will conduct a home safety assessment to just make recommendations to help keep our members safe in their homes so that they can age in place successfully now and into the future. We also provide prepared meals for when somebody has a specific medical need and can't cook. So say somebody gets the flu, they're off their feet for about a week, we can make sure that lunch and dinner are being delivered to them. Also included is an emergency response system, which we will supply, and our members are entitled to that on day one of their membership or anytime thereafter. Transportation, we can take members to and from medically necessary procedures. So what does medically necessary mean? That essentially means when our doctor says that you can't drive. So maybe somebody's having something like a colonoscopy, cataract surgery. In those instances, we can pick the member up, take them to their appointment, wait with them, and return them back home. And we also offer referral services. You know, we just want to make life in your home easier for you. So if anybody needs assistance, maybe with something like mowing their lawn, or they need some painting done around their house, or even need their computer fixed, all they have to do is call their life care coordinator, and we keep a list of credentialed businesses on file so we can simply make recommendations of who to contact. So let's take a look at the eligibility requirements for the program. There is a minimum age of 60, but no maximum age to apply. You must currently be living independently in your home, which does mean that you're not currently receiving any assistance with those activities of daily living. There is a 3-step application process. So there is a medical application where we will request 3 years of medical history from your primary care physician. There is a financial application, and then there is also a one-on-one meeting with the life care coordinator where they will come out to your home to just do some brief cognitive and mobility testing. If you have a current diagnosis of a progressive neurological disease, such as Alzheimer's or dementia, that would limit your plan options. But with that being said, we do offer a specialized support services option. So this is an option that is available when a couple applies for membership and one is determined to be medically ineligible. The eligible member will join the program, and the specialized support services member will receive some assistance from the life care coordinator. They will have some access to home care, as well as the emergency response system for a smaller monthly fee. So this service really takes the responsibility off of the spouse and ensures that there is a plan in place should a need arise. Your primary residence must be within our designated service area, which is currently Lancaster, Lebanon, Dauphin, and York counties. However, we know people like to travel. We have members that snowbird for the winter or head to vacation homes in the summer. So if one of our members is traveling and they do need assistance, all they have to do is call their life care coordinator, and we will still put services into place for them until they can safely make it back home. And finally, you must also maintain your health insurance coverage for your acute medical needs. So let's talk briefly about the current cost of care in Lancaster County, just to help you better understand the value of this program. So when we're talking about long-term care needs, we are generally referring to home care, personal care, and skilled nursing care. So with home care, you are typically looking at an hourly rate for that care. So right now, the average cost per hour to have a home care aide come in and assist you is about $30 an hour. So if you needed somebody to come into your home just 4 hours a day, say 2 hours in the morning to help get you up, get you dressed, get your breakfast, get you ready for the day, then they come back for 2 hours in the evening to get your dinner, maybe do some medication reminders, get you ready for bed. If you needed a home care aide to come in just for 4 hours a day for a year, you'd be looking at a cost of over $43,000 for that care. Now, personal care typically comes as a daily rate. So right now, the average cost of personal care in Lancaster County is about $250 a day. So if you needed to move into a personal care setting for that ongoing help with those activities of daily living, you'd be looking at a cost of over $90,000 for that care. Skilled nursing is generally the most expensive level of care. So right now, the average cost of skilled nursing in Lancaster County is about $490 a day. So if you needed to move into a skilled nursing community for round-the-clock nursing care, you would be looking at a cost of about $180,000 for the year. So the bottom line is, to pay for care out of pocket, it is very expensive, and sadly, it just continues to get more and more expensive year after year. So let's take a look at how the SmartLife program is outlined. There is a one-time membership fee that is based on your age and the plan option offered. So you pay this one time only when you join the program. There is also a monthly fee that is not based on age. This is simply based on the plan option offered. There is a discount for people living in the same household who apply at the same time. This is a pretty important point that not a lot of people are aware of. SmartLife's membership fees and monthly fees are fully tax deductible as a prepaid medical expense. There is a maximum daily benefit that will be paid by SmartLife. So that rate right now is $504 per day. So that means that services provided to a member can be as much as $504 per day, whether they are receiving care in their home or outside of their home in personal care, memory care, or skilled nursing. Now, our monthly fees do have an annual adjustment rate, just like at any senior living community. Our increases have remained minimal and average at about 3% each year. However, even though those monthly fees will have annual adjustment rates, that daily benefit that I just spoke about will also have periodic adjustments based on the average cost of care, which ultimately provides you built-in inflation protection. So here's a chart that shows a summary of the plan options that we offer. With all of these plans, there is lifetime coverage. So that means there is no limit in the years of coverage. The copay and security plans offer the option to pay for some of your services out of pocket. So this will also provide you the opportunity to pay less money up front. These plans can often match well if you do have an existing long-term care insurance policy. And if somebody has a policy, we can always take a look at that to see how it may match up with one of our plan options. But for those of you who are seeking more coverage, the all-inclusive plan offers you the same lifetime care with no copays. So with SmartLife, there really are options to fit everybody's individual needs. But what is really important to remember is that with all of these plan options, there is lifetime care. So from the day you become a member until the day you are no longer with us, SmartLife and Willow Valley will be there to take care of you. So here's a pricing example for a 70-year-old individual. So this is for one person without the couple's discount. Membership fees are based on your age when you submit your application for approval and the plan option offered. And our pricing is actuarially based on age and it changes with each year. So if you're looking at this chart and you are 71, those membership fees will be slightly higher. If you are 69, those membership fees are going to be slightly lower. The membership fees for the copay and security plans are lower because again, you share in some of that out-of-pocket expense for care. Again, these plans can work well if somebody does have a long-term care insurance policy they're working with. The membership fee for the all-inclusive plan is the most expensive. However, you have no copays with this plan, just the monthly fee. Again, there's lifetime coverage on all of these plan options. So we are out and about daily meeting with individuals about the SmartLife program, and we are often asked, what is the difference between SmartLife and long-term care insurance? So I am just going to give a brief side-by-side comparison of the two. So as I discussed earlier, your connection to SmartLife really is the life care coordinator. They will be the person to assist you when you need help. They can coordinate services, they can answer any questions that you have. They are going to be your advocate, and our members really look at them as somebody that they can trust. With long-term care insurance, when you need assistance, you're directed to a 1-800 number. So the person you speak with does not know you, nor are they familiar with your situation. With SmartLife, there is no elimination period. So this means there is no waiting for benefits to kick in. The day that you need help is the day that you are going to get help. Most long-term care insurance policies have a 60 to 100 day elimination period. So this means that you're responsible for all costs out of pocket until that time frame is met. With SmartLife, you only need a decline in one activity of daily living to start receiving services. With long-term care insurance, you typically need a decline in 2 or more activities of daily living to start receiving services. And with SmartLife, there is no medical approval needed for most services to begin. But with long-term care insurance, medical approval is needed for services to begin. And with SmartLife, you receive lifetime care. So again, this means from the day you become a member until the day you are no longer with us, SmartLife will be there to take care of you. With long-term care insurance, there is often limited time care. So it's typically about 3 to 4 years or even up to a specific dollar amount. They no longer sell lifetime policies with long-term care insurance. And finally, with SmartLife, you will receive Willow Valley's high standard of care. With long-term care insurance, there is just no guarantee of where services will be provided. And finally, just for some program flexibility, SmartLife is portable, which means if you join as a member and you reside here in our designated service area for at least a year, so you live here in Lancaster, Lebanon, or Dauphin, or York counties for at least a year, and then you choose to move out of state, the SmartLife program will follow you, and we will just continue to coordinate your services from afar. And additionally, we do offer a bridge to Willow Valley option. So this is an option for individuals who start off as SmartLife members, but then choose at a later time to move into independent living at Willow Valley communities. This option provides an extended 10-year depreciation of the one-time membership fee that you pay to join the program. So you can use the undepreciated amount of that membership fee towards your entrance fee at Willow Valley. So this is just an option again for individuals who start off as SmartLife members, but choose at a later time to move into independent living at Willow Valley. Keep in mind, if you're a SmartLife member and you need to go to Willow Valley for personal care, memory care, skilled nursing, that is covered under your SmartLife benefit. So we feel very fortunate to speak with you today about the SmartLife program because this is an option that we did not have available here in Lancaster County just 10 years ago. And this is an option that is truly not available to most people in this country currently. So we feel very fortunate to offer the SmartLife program here in the central Pennsylvania area because we really believe that SmartLife is the wisdom of a plan. For staying in your home, for financial protection, for simplifying your future, for maintaining independence and freedom of choice. And last but not least, the one you will hear a member speak about most often is simply for the peace of mind. So SmartLife is a program that is going to provide you coordinated care and access to care when you need it. It provides financial protection of your assets, and it takes away the burden of care from your spouse or a family member and is truly focused on your overall wellness. And all of these things can give you peace of mind, knowing that SmartLife's goal is the same as yours to keep you as well and independent as possible so that you can remain in your own home. So after we give presentations to individuals, people often ask, what are my next steps? So if anybody ever has questions about the SmartLife program, or maybe you want to see your individual pricing, maybe you have a long-term care insurance policy, you're curious about how it may match with one of our plan options, you can always give us a call, send us an email. We're always happy to meet with you one-on-one in your home. You can do it by Zoom. You're welcome to come to our office at Willow Valley, whatever is best for you, but we're always happy to continue the conversation after today. So thank you so much for allowing me to share SmartLife with you. We're thrilled to be here, so thank you.